2. This is the GJRB Online Network.
And now, another GJRB Schedule update. Here he is, Gary J. Russell.
Hello everyone, hello everywhere across America and around the world. I'm Gary J. Russell live at the GJRB Spreaker Studios on Clinton's North End, and we're bringing you the GJRB Schedule Update Podcast. This is a podcast to let you know what programs are going to be airing on GJRB and the new schedule plan for the GJRB online network. Lately, it's been kind of a rat race trying to get programs produced, written, what have you, lately for me. And I decided to do something a little different about that to try to fix the situation. First of all, this was going to be a video, but I decided I didn't have time to really write all that stuff up to make it visual. And it's fairly simple anyway. It's simple enough to only make this about an hour. And it basically just talking about what I want to do as far as programming is concerned. Because I've been really having a rough time trying to produce programs and have it scheduled on time. And things come up and I end up having to cancel shows and have to sit there and start making up reasons why I have to call off my programs. And it's getting to a point where it gets a little frustrating, basically. And I just I got to do something different with it. So I decided I wanted to do is make a schedule that will work for me, that will work for both me and my wife, friends, the other engagements, that things that I have to do, that I could work around it, kind of thing. Basically, just preparing for other things because there could eventually be other voices on this station besides me. Not giving my station away to the church or anything like that, but I'm going to probably do some different things with it. With my friend Brian Harrison, as a matter of fact, we're going to work on that idea. I have an idea for a artist showcase program, and a few other things that I'm working on down the line too for GJRB this year. One of the things I wanted to talk about first, but before I do, I want to spread out a couple of happy birthdays. One to my belated on air to my friend Brian Harrison. Also, a good friend and fellow podcaster, host of the Radio Hope Network, and a fabulous show indeed. He is also celebrating a birthday today, so happy birthday to Mike Myers. Big happy birthday goes out to you today as well. I hope you're having a good birthday. Hope you're enjoying your birthday. And thought what we'll just do right now is get things ready because I want to talk about the program schedule. It's been kind of a hassle, like I said, trying to get programs on the air because here I am sitting here trying to figure out how to wiggle around funerals, birthday parties, you name it. It's something comes up. And it's been kind of where I'm going, how do I do this? How do I schedule a program when something comes up? How do I schedule a program when I've got things that come up each week? And sometimes I get frustrated because I lose a day. And it just gets crazy. So I'm planning something different with my radio schedule. And what I call spontaneous. That means I just go on any time. Like right now. With the GJRB Schedule Update podcast. I just go on the air. Now I should have, I was going to hit some notifications. Let people know I'm on the air. And I'll probably run a promo break to do that. But just to let you know that I'm broadcasting. But at this point, what I'm trying to do is try to just go on the air whenever. And just have programs set up. Like this week, I have, toward the end of the week, of course, Crooners on Friday. We're going to be on the air live, 3 o'clock Central Time. Live at 1 o'clock Central Time, Friday afternoon, 1 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Eastern, and 11 a.m. Pacific for Crooners. Hasn't been on the air since before Christmas. Okay, so I'm going to say probably about, I think the last Crooners I did might have been October. So that's how long ago it's been. And it's been a while. So when I usually do that, when I'm usually not on for a while with the music show, I usually start the rotation over again from the beginning and maybe move my songs around a little bit. So sometimes you'll see on the playlist A or a B or a letter C before the song title. I do that on purpose to move the songs up the rotation. So I use the alphabet to do that, because all the computer does is put all my song titles in alphabetical order. So I just use a letter of the alphabet to move the song up. Like if I want a song up to the top, I put an A by it, at the front of it, a letter A. That means that song goes at the top of the rotation because it's a big song. If a song is old and has been on the top of the rotation, I'll take that letter off and make a Z. That means that song then goes down to the bottom of the list. That's how I do that. That's why you see sometimes a letter A in front of a song title. That just means that song is on the top of the rotation. But anyway, like I said before, not squirreling myself here. I wanted to make it plain and simple that what I want to do here now is to just have all my programs not really scheduled, but spontaneous. The only programs that will be scheduled are shows that I want on weekly. Now, lately, we've been on the air for the past several weeks, I think since probably about the tail end of February, I've been on maybe once a week on a Friday and a Saturday with our regular programs recently. Example would have been the past couple of weeks I've been on Friday and Saturday doing Way Out There. The last 7 days Way Out There on a Friday and Saturday. And then the following week I think I had, I can't remember what else I had the following week. And I went to jazz. Of course, that's the first Friday of the month. And then this week we're doing crooners and radio, television, and movie classics on Friday. And then Saturday, I'm going to try it again with another Gary Russell program, Saturday Extra, with Ben Osan, my friend from Pittsburgh, to be a guest on. We were going to talk about what's going on in the news and stuff. And the past couple of weeks, I planned him being on, and then he kind of backs out. He doesn't mean to. He has a lot of emergencies, too. He's got things going on. And it's kind of hard to schedule with him, too, because of that. So I'm kind of struggling with this particular thing anyway. But I'm working around it, and I'm going to confirm that date. Now, with guests, I'll talk about that later. I'm planning on doing a booking system with guests, because I can't seem to, maintain my guests being on, and then I'm going to have to do a backup booking, which would mean that if a guest, for some reason, backs out on me, then I can have a backup guest to be on the show. And I got that idea from listening to Dave Scott's Spaced Out Radio, because I know twice now one of his guests has backed out on him at the last minute, and he has to come up with a quick guest. And of course his show is mainly all guest anyway, or mine, it doesn't really matter, because I either do a guest or I do a news program with news stories all the way throughout. So it doesn't really matter which way I do it. But it's just a matter of getting the programs on the air and having them scheduled and having them on time, and be able to have people who are willing to be on the show, not back out on me, or people who are going to be a guest on my show, let them know that I'm going to be on my show to have you be on as a guest and not back out on you for any reason other than an really extreme emergency where I do have to cancel the program. But mainly all my programs are scheduled and usually go on as scheduled, because I really don't have all that much really going on. But what I'm going to do right now is go into the plan as I have it. Let's see, I want to go to that page here where I have my schedule lined up. First, I want to talk about the programs that I want to do first. The programs that I like to see on every week. Programs I would like to see on every week. Now, I had to type up on here, but I just don't have time for that. These are programs that will either be automated, voice tracked, whatever, in music form, or pre-recorded shows that I rebroadcast. Mainly, that's what I do. Now, a lot of the programs that I rebroadcast that are pre-recorded are programs that were already on that I replay. And you'll know that it's being a rerun because usually I'll replay the best of jazz. I'll replay the Blues House, and they're usually on a Saturday. But if I play them on a Wednesday, it's going to sound funny. Saying it's a Saturday, but it's not. It's a Wednesday. So sometimes I take those time-sensitive material and cut them out for a generic program. It takes a while to do that. So I always do that because I feel you all know it's a rerun anyway. So sometimes I'm not going to always do that, and it's going to sound funny, but who cares? It's a rerun. But anyway, either automated programming, voice track, what have you, talk shows live. Well, I'm going to start with first the Gary Russin program, and this is going to be starting with alternative days in March. That's this month, and maybe even some evenings we're going to be on the air. I'm thinking about doing an evening edition of a Gary Russin program, and I'm thinking of a nighttime Way Out There, because I think it's a fabulous lead-on here on Spreaker. It's a fabulous lead-in right here on Spreaker for Spaced Out Radio. And I really would like to do a Way Out There at night because I think that it's a great lead-in for Dave Scott's Spaced Out Radio. Because I would do the show at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time until 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. At 11 o'clock, Spaced Out Radio would then come on. And of course, that I carry that on my 9-foot closed circuit FM signal, Spreaker FM 88.9. So people, and then it'd just be heard within about a 9-foot radius of the studio. And anybody living in this apartment complex could probably pick it up. But then once you leave, you don't hear it, kind of thing. So, that's basically what I do there. So I'm thinking of a Way Out There in the evening, probably like somewhere in the third or fourth week, depending on, it'll just be spontaneous at this point. Don't know exactly when it will be on, okay? So a lot of the programs, remember, that are spontaneous, I will not post until 72 to 3 hours before airtime. I mean, 72 hours before airtime would be like 3 days before airtime, or 48 hours before airtime, 2 days before airtime, or 24 hours, a day before airtime, all the way down to, I'm going to go on the air. Hey, man, the heck with it. I'm going on the air like I am now. I didn't plan it. I planned this. I was going to do this. But I was just going to be spontaneous, live on the air. I was just going to do this GJRB Schedule Update podcast live on the air. Spontaneous. Just on here on Spreaker. Okay? And it's just a Schedule Update podcast. And basically, I'm just going on the air just spontaneously to see if I can get audience that way. And now, I didn't post before I went on the air. I just went on the air. Okay? But I might just take a promo break and post this around and see if we can get some audience. But, if you have any ideas as far as how this program schedule can go a lot better, I'm always open to it in the Spreaker chat room. Meanwhile, anyhow, getting back to it without squirreling, we're going to, like I said, once a week, programs like this would be the Gary Russin program, once a week, and it could change from day to day to day, week to week to week. In other words, one week I could do it on a Monday, one week I'll probably do it on a Tuesday, one week I could do it on a Wednesday, so on and so forth, all the way down the calendar. But it'll be rotated with other programs. And they will include like Way Out There. Like I said, I think that would be a great lead into Spaced Out Radio, where I would do that at night. It would be the regularly scheduled Way Out There, which is the third week of the month. And then that following week, I'd do another Way Out There at night. Okay? Then Gary J in the afternoon. That show I like to have almost on every day. It's just a music show. And as I told you before about the music shows, I don't really make a playlist for those anymore, because I already have a playlist. It's on the computer. I have a rotation. I have a format wheel program here on the computer. It's called Broadcast Clock, and it's absolutely fabulous. I love this thing. Matter of fact, I think Mike Myers referred me to it, and I use it quite a bit. It's called the Broadcast Clock Creator, and I use that just on the computer for me. And I use these, I just have it up for me. And basically, it's I just schedule. I just have all my songs lined up in envelopes in each genre. It would include add-ons, which is new songs, heavy, which is heavy play, most popular. The heavies get played. Now, if I do a live show every day, doing Gary J in the afternoon, music show, either live or voice tracked, which I'm thinking about doing once in a while, it would be where the rotation would follow that. Okay? Live rotation. Heavies would be on, if you're having it on all day, the most heaviest songs will get played maybe once every hour and a half. And then the most played songs get played maybe every 2 hours, and some of the newer ones get played once every hour and a half to 2 hours. So it just depends on the rotation there. Gary J in the afternoon is part of the regular music format. Okay, it's basically all the songs I play on GJRB in all genres: jazz, country, Christian rock, which is the top one, and oldies, various 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s rock and roll. All the genre that I have on the computer. And basically I have a format wheel for that. And I just go down the list and then start all over again. And the songs are rotated that way, like a radio station does, basically. I think most radio stations do this. But I have my own system that I think works out pretty good. Gary J in the afternoon, I like to have on every day or every week. It just depends on how things go. Up and Coming was the show that was one of the first music shows I ever did on this station. Up and Coming is one of the originals from the beginning of GJRB, basically. And that was pretty good because I always enjoyed doing that show. And I don't know why I stopped it. Oh, I know why I did. I didn't have enough new emerging artists and new songs to keep the show going. So mainly at that time, I didn't have that many new songs on the playlist, and I didn't have anybody contributing songs, and I wasn't getting any new songs. Well, recently I got a whole crop of new music, as you will notice, basically from friends of mine, one new artist that I haven't played yet, two actually, are from one of my fellow podcasters and friend Debbie Scott from the Debbie Scott Radio Network, and a guy named Keith Brooks, which I have not played his songs yet. A fabulous artist, and plan on playing some of his new music. And then I've got another artist that she introduced me to that is fabulous too. And I think his name is, if I'm mistaken, Dave Dover. Anyway, these are two new artists. And then I have SoundClick and SoundCloud and Reverb Nation are three emerging sites which I get my music from. And then I was going to start listening to indie stations, radio stations online that are independent label artist stations to get new music. So I thought, well, I'm getting a new crop of artists. I'm getting a new crop of music. I'm getting new stuff. Why don't I just kickstart my up-and-coming show? Because it was a good show. I had some good music on there, and it was absolutely fabulous. I was doing, it took me time to do that, though. It takes forever to do that. But I had what I call music preview montages, which I would preview the songs before I play them. What I'm doing with that now is I'm using all my players. I have I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Just that's 4 coming from both speaker consoles. Plus 5, 6, 7, 8. I think almost 8 players altogether. Combined, if you count in Virtual DJ, which is the other thing I use. Virtual DJ is a system I use, and basically what Virtual DJ is a program, and it's fabulous because I can automate my music, and I can set it up to crossfade, segue automatically. So it's absolutely fabulous. It's one of my favorite programs on the computer, is this Virtual DJ, because I could do so much more with it. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, anyway, crossfade music. Yeah, anyway, it's just absolutely fabulous. So what I do is I make montages that I can play on the air for all the songs that I'm going to play. Now, we're going to get to this next. This will end up being an hour and a half. Watch and see if I can write. Let's see. Yeah. Next thing on my list, up and coming, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate all my music. And what I do is, all the new music, this is going to be one of those tight shows. And I'll talk about that in a minute. What I mean by tight shows is these are programs that need playlists timed out, and songs timed out. The songs I need to know when I'm going to play on that show. That's a tight show. That includes all scheduled promos and sponsors and spots that I play during that program. Those are programs that have to be scheduled. Okay? All right? Aside from spontaneous. We'll get to that later. Up and coming, Swing Time, which hasn't been on the air since God knows when. I think it was last time I did Swing Time was last October. Was the first show. Somewhere around September, October of last year, I did a Swing Time. Haven't done a show since. It was Swing Time 000, I believe. It was a new show. It was a new format. I did the music of, let me see, what was it? I think it was Stan Getz, wasn't it? Yeah. I need to replay that program. I'm going to probably have that as a rerun. But I'm going to probably replay it. But I haven't done that show in a long time. So we're going to bring back Swing Time. And then Smooth Afternoon, Smooth Jazz is going to remain in its original time slot the first week of the month. The first Friday of every month is always jazz, smooth jazz, okay? Always. That first weekend is a jazz weekend. So usually I have jazz on that weekend. Always. Now I don't have a spot for Swing Time, so that show becomes spontaneous. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But these are all shows that will probably be spontaneous. The Gary Russin program, Way Out There, Gary J in the Afternoon, Up and Coming, and Swing Time are all going to be spontaneous shows, but I would like to have them on weekly. Now, it depends on Up and Coming, though, because with Up and Coming, like I said before, it depends on how many shows I can write up ahead of time. And I will talk about that coming up. Those are the tight shows. But we're still on spontaneous, and that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about through this whole segment. Okay? And then about 6 minutes, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about the next segment of my program, and that is going to be the tight programs, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But mainly, right now, we're talking about spontaneous. And we're going to go down now to another program which can be spontaneous, but mainly is tight most of the time. And that's because I got to pick the programs to go on this program, and I had to pick the classic commercials I'm going to play with them. And now I'm talking about Radioland. Radioland is another show that's tight. It has to be scheduled, and it has to have a playlist. Okay, because I'm picking radio programs, and I'm doing classic radio shows there, and it needs to be tight, and it needs to be produced. So that's another show that has to be written. So that program I'm going to talk about in the next segment. Radioland Time Warp also is under that category. Crooners, the one I'm going to have on Friday, that's another show that can either be tightly written and produced and have a playlist, or it can be spontaneous. That's a show that goes under the options list, because I can do that show either as a timed out playlist, or it can be a freestyle show with request, which I want to do a couple of the... I talked about this last year, never really got on the air yet, and as Crooner's request. And I'm thinking about doing a couple of those. So I really want to talk about maybe Crooners being on twice weekly. Or at least twice a month, rather. Twice monthly. Every other week. One show will be tight, the other show will be a request. Okay? And we'll go under the request line icon. And either show could be tight. But the tight shows mainly are only going to be shows where if I discover another crooner and I want to do something on that crooner. Example is recently with Vic Dana, which is going to be my crooner's profile this time around. So when I have that situation going on where I have a profile artist, then I will do a show that's tightly written and tightly produced and written. Okay, that's a written show. That's a tightly produced, timed out playlist. Okay, when I have a artist profile. Okay, otherwise, if I don't have an artist profile, the show's freeform. Okay, so that's what that is. Radio, television, movie classics, that's another show that has to be produced, written, and timed out. Because I have a lot of things I do on that show. Trivia, I've got a good show coming up Friday. Going to be doing a profile on Ronnie Shell, who played on the TV show Gomer Pyle USMC and Good Morning World. And he was a comedian. So I'm going to be doing a little piece on him, a pretty neat one too. I got some real neat clips, including a bit he did on the Johnny Carson program. So we've got some really good stuff coming up on Friday. So tune in for that. That's on radio, television, and movie classics Friday on GJRB. So you want to listen to that show. It's going to be fabulous. I'm looking forward to doing that one. I am. I love doing that show. Got some good trivia too. Coming up, let's see. And then, of course, Sports Page. That's another show that's under the talk show icon. Goes underneath, actually, the Gary Russell program way out there. Sports Page is my sports talk show. That show is kind of a tough one to do because now we're getting into the baseball season, and it's going to be different to schedule that because the Cubs games usually preempted on my 9-foot signal. So usually I don't do a sports page unless it's, again, planned out, produced, and written. Because there's a lot of stuff I do with talking about certain stories. It's picking stories. It's like the Gary Russell program, where I have to pick sports stories to talk about. And eventually on down the line, I also plan on having Bob Huber on with me talking about some sports. Because here's somebody that can help me with sports that I could have on the show would be absolutely fabulous. So I'm thinking I would like to be able to have Bob Huber on once in a while for this program, because it's a show that I don't know that much about sports. I know a little bit about hockey, not much. I don't understand basketball. I don't. And I like to talk about bowling and baseball, and that's pretty much my two favorites. I'm getting into NASCAR a little bit. I'm thinking about following them because that's part of our sports. So anybody out there who might pick up this show later on and listen, who has a knowledge of these sports, let me know, because I would love to have you on as a guest talking about sports. It would be absolutely fabulous. So let me know if you are one of those people. So because I would love to have it that way. So anyhow, sports page of the show again will air alternate Saturdays. This will be on my Talk FM 108 signal, and it depends on the Cubs baseball game. Okay, now if a Saturday, it's on Saturdays, but I'm going to probably air it spontaneous. It'll go under that spontaneous list as well, because I might have the show on spontaneous if I can't do a show one week. Regularly scheduled alternating Saturdays with Gary Rustin program Saturday Extra. So for example, this week I'm doing Saturday Extra with Ben Osman. The following Saturday, I'm thinking about doing a sports page. But like I said before, I want to talk about the Grapefruit League, talk about the Cubs baseball games, talk about baseball, both the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League. Okay, both, spring trainings, Florida and Arizona. So I'm going to be talking about general baseball, and that will include everything MLB. So if anybody's really big on MLB, love to have you on the show. That's all there is to it. So we're going to talk about that show. Now, the general rule is, if the Cubs have a baseball game at 12:05 on a Saturday, then my show, the sports page, will follow that. If by chance the Cubs play a late game on the West Coast at 3:05, then I'll have the sports page on early as 12 o'clock noon and go on until, like, say the Cubs play at 3:05. Usually they have the pregame show at 2:30. Usually about 35 minutes before a game they have the pregame show. It's been that way on the Cubs Baseball Network for some time. So usually about 35 minutes before a game they have the pregame show during the season. Well, then when I do, in the postgame show is a little longer, it seems. But I usually will do a sports page right afterward. Now, in a case like that, let's say the game goes into extra innings, then usually what will happen is I'll have to cancel the sports page. Then what will happen is, and this goes also for games that play at 1:20 or 2:20. If we have a 1:20 or 2:20 game start for the Cubs on my 9-foot signal, then there's no Cubs. There's no sports page on. But I could just simulcast the Cubs game on my 9-foot signal through the Score 670 on the FM signal, but still have a sports page on Spreaker only. Because remember, I have two stations. I can have one carrying the game and one I do here. So I can still have the sports page on, but it'll only be on Spreaker. So, either way. Now, if a game is over, but I decide it's over, but it's going to be like maybe 3 o'clock, maybe I'll run a little bit of the post-game show on my 9-foot signal, and then I'll go to my show at 3 o'clock. So I'll kind of do that. I don't have to play the whole post-game show. Anyway, that's some of the things I do. Now, I will reiterate on this at the end of the show. But right now, though, I'm going to take a break, and then when I return, I'm going to talk more about the tight programs. These are programs that are tight, that need to be scheduled. And that's coming up next as we continue the GJRB Schedule Update Podcast. I'll be right back. Great memories and trivia are coming up on the return of radio, television, and movie classics. I have more original sponsor openings from classic TV shows, Bonanza, Rawhide, and The Danny Thomas Show. Retro Primetime takes you back to primetime TV on Saturday night in the summer of 1968. I have a whole new crop of trivia questions for you to answer. And I have more commercials from defunct products. Join me, Gary Russin, for nostalgic fun on radio, television, and movie classics. Coming back Friday, March 8th at 3 o'clock p.m. Central on GJRB. Imagine one day tuning around on your internet radio only to find a station playing old radio programs complete with commercials and thinking, what am I tuning into? The past? You might be, or it's just GJRB Online and Radioland. A day of nothing but classic radio shows back to back with classic commercials in between, like the days of radio. Almost like your computer is picking up signals through time. Closer than you'll ever get to time travel. Radioland. And I'm back. Welcome back to the GJRB Schedule Update Podcast. I'm Gary J. Russin, and we are continuing with our conversation about our program schedule here on GJRB Online. Give you a chance to get acquainted with our schedule once again. What we're doing with the schedule, how we're changing things around, and how it seems to be where I had to formulate my schedule by making a schedule, by spontaneous schedule, and making programs so that I could have them on more often. That's the whole idea, okay? And I think that what I need to do with that is to see if we can get an audience at different time slots. That's what I'm working on too, because mainly I'm on the air in the afternoons. Usually in the afternoons between 3 and 6 p.m. Alright? And all is well there. I like the time slot. I used to go 2 to 5. Found out 2 to 5 doesn't work because I'm rushed to get on the air. And basically, I don't get enough time to produce programs. And I found out that if I go on the air from 2 to 5 p.m., I don't get the, I don't, I'm rushed to get on. That's all I'm saying. And I'm finding out that I think it would be better if I go on the air at, let's say, 3 to 6 p.m. And I like that time slot better because it works better for me. And I like it because then I can do a lot more show that way. I can maybe even stay on a little longer. So that's usually the whole idea behind that. And I'm finding out that if I do it this way with the new spontaneous schedule, I can try different time slots and programming where I'm programming the station, but I'm not on live. I just have music or voice tracking or other programs on GJRB that have been on already. Contributors also could be anybody that that would like to do a show other than me on this station, and have a schedule where we could go on any time. And like I said before, I like this idea. And I have so many shows, and Delgado probably does, because he agrees with me. I mean, we have, I can't imagine how many shows we have now. To date, at least 23. I'm thinking 23 or 24. I haven't really counted them lately. But I just started. If I restart up and coming, that's 25. That's a lot of shows. And I'm getting to a point where I got a whole month of shows almost within about a week or so, I'd say. Maybe 5 days. 5 more shows will put me over the top. It'll just be a full month of programs there. So I really don't want that many programs that are, unless, like I said before, it would be where if I have that many programs and I want them on more often, I'm going to have to be on every day and have these programs on a schedule. And that's the whole idea behind GJRB. Now, as I was talking to you earlier about this, and I'll mention this before I go off the air one more time, Lori and I, without saying too much, without saying it too much at all, we've been having some small financial issues. And originally planned on expanding Spreaker, my Spreaker account, and expanding to 3 hours with the broadcaster plan, which I really would like to do, but right now I can't afford it. At this point, I can't really do the broadcaster plan right now. So what I'm doing is basically just making it a regular schedule of programs, and I'm trying different things with this experiment that I'm trying. What I'm doing is I'm taking I'm purposely disconnecting it. I found this out one day, and I'm going to tell you this as I get toward the end of the session here. I found this out one day, and I don't know if any of you Spreaker followers have noticed it, but it's a neat idea, and I don't know if you want to do it or not. Why not? Take advantage of it. I found out one day by accident when I had a internet outage. I think it was when I did my jazz program on, and this went a while back too. A couple of other shows back. I don't remember how far back it was. And I did a show on the air, and I had an internet outage while I was on the air. It knocked me off the air for a while. And when I came back on the air, I noticed that my Spreaker console gave me more time. As a matter of fact, I was at a point where I was on the air for almost an hour, at least an hour, almost an hour and a half, maybe like about an hour and 15 minutes. And then it kept on, it added up my time, and I was on the air longer than I was getting a longer broadcast time by disconnecting temporarily off my computer, disconnecting the back of the internet off the back of the computer, off the back of the modem. What I did was I purposely disconnected the internet off the back of the modem while I was broadcasting, knocking me off the air. I was doing it that way. Which I think, I don't know, that probably starts it all over again on Spreaker. So in other words, I think if I were to do that at the beginning of my segment, I'm going to try that as an experiment on my next piece. So we're going to go on to part 2. I'm going to try something in part 2 within about maybe 15 minutes of my show. I will probably go off for about maybe 5 minutes. Maybe 10. I might just play a song or something. And I'm just going to play a song here, so the length of a song. Or I might just do it for like maybe 5-10 minutes. and then see what happens. So we're going to try that in this next segment. I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back. I'll have more of the GJRB Schedule Update podcast right after this break. We'll be right back.